The battlefield was silent now. Broken ships drifted in the cold, dark space, their lights fading like dying stars. Among the ruins, a single escape pod floated, carrying one survivor, a human soldier named Daniel. He had fought bravely, but the enemy was too strong, and now he was alone, surrounded by endless void. The pod shuddered as a beam of strange blue light pulled it inside a massive alien ship. Daniel's heart raced. He tried to grab his weapon, but the pod doors opened with a hiss. Tall armored guards stepped forward, their faces hidden by glowing helmets. They seized him roughly, dragging him through long corridors filled with strange symbols and flickering lights. Daniel felt small compared to them, but he kept his head high. He told himself that humans do not beg, humans do not bow. Still, he could not deny the fear growing inside him. Where were they taking him, and what fate waited at the end of these endless halls? Finally, the guards pushed him into a wide chamber. The air was heavy with strange energy, glowing patterns covered the walls, shifting like living things. At the center of the room stood a figure, not a warrior, not a monster, but a girl. She was young, her skin pale with a faint silver glow, her eyes bright and sharp like twin stars. Her long, dark hair framed a face both beautiful and dangerous. She did not wear heavy armor like the guards, only a flowing garment that shimmered with alien light. But it was not her appearance that struck Daniel most, it was her smirk. She looked at him like she already knew everything. Her lips curved slightly, mocking yet curious. Daniel froze. Trying not to show weakness, the guards released him and stepped back, as if this girl alone was more powerful than all of them. For a moment, silence filled the chamber, broken only by the hum of the walls. The girl tilted her head, studying him. Then she spoke, her voice calm yet cutting. "You think too much, human," she said, her smirk widening. "And your thoughts are dirty?" Daniel's eyes widened, his heart jumped. How could she know? How could she see into his private mind? He clenched his fists, trying to block his thoughts, trying to hide. But it was useless. She laughed softly, the sound sharp as a blade. "You imagine strength, glory, and desire," she continued, walking slowly around him. Her steps were light, almost playful, but her gaze was heavy, piercing into him. "You wonder if I am dangerous or if I am beautiful, and then you wonder both at the same time." Her smirk returned, sharper than before. "Do not deny it, human, your mind is an open book." Daniel gritted his teeth, anger mixing with shame. He wanted to shout, to fight, but the truth was worse. She was inside his head. He was naked before her without lifting a finger. Every thought he had was hers to see, every secret, every weakness. But even as fear grew inside him, another thought rose. If she could see everything, then maybe she would also see his strength. Humans were not just flesh and bone. Humans were fire, will, and defiance. He forced himself to meet her eyes, steady and unbroken. The girl noticed, her smirk flickered but did not fade. "You try to resist," she said softly, almost like a challenge. Her voice carried both amusement and something else, a spark of interest. "This will be entertaining." The guards shifted uneasily, but none dared interrupt. Daniel realized this was no simple meeting, no quick execution. This was a test, and she was the one who would decide his fate. But why him? Why here? Why now? The girl stopped, in front of him, close enough that he could feel the strange warmth of her presence. Her eyes glowed brighter, pulling him deeper. "You cannot hide from me," she whispered, her smirk soft but dangerous. "And soon, you will not want to." Daniel's pulse pounded, but he refused to look away. Whatever this was, it was only the beginning. And deep inside, he knew one thing. The smirk on her face promised both danger and destiny. Daniel stood frozen in the center of the glowing chamber. The alien girl's smirk still played on her lips like she had already won some secret battle. Her words echoed in his mind, sharper than any blade. "You cannot hide from me," she had said, and Daniel knew it was true. She began to circle, him again, her bare feet silent against the strange floor. Every step felt measured, deliberate, like a predator moving around prey. Her eyes never left him, glowing faintly, shifting between mocking and curious. Daniel tried to steady his breathing, reminding himself he was a soldier, a human, a fighter. But inside, unease grew like a storm. "You are wondering how I do this," she said lightly, as if answering his thoughts. "You want to know if it is magic or technology or something you cannot understand." Her smirk widened. "The truth is simpler. I see you because I am inside you. Every thought, every image, every desire." Daniel clenched his jaw, forcing himself not to react. He tried to clear his mind, thinking only of silence, of empty darkness. But the girl laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "You cannot close the door, human," she said. "Your mind is wide open, your emotions louder than your voice." Daniel felt heat rise in his face, anger and shame mixing. It was not just that she knew his thoughts, it was how she twisted them, how she enjoyed exposing him. Her smirk was not only cruel, it was playful, like she wanted to see how far she could push him, still he would not break. He lifted his chin and met her gaze. The girl paused, tilting her head slightly. Her eyes narrowed, but the smirk never left. "You resist," she said softly. "But resistance makes your thoughts even louder." She stepped closer, so close that Daniel could feel her breath, warm and unsettling. "Right now, you think of striking me, of escaping, of fighting back. But you also think of my face, my voice, the way I look at you." Daniel's stomach tightened, his fists clenched at his sides. He wanted to fight, but the chains were not metal. They were inside his own mind. No soldier had trained for this. No battle plan prepared him for such a weapon. And she knew it. She enjoyed it. The girl leaned back slightly, her smirk softening into something almost curious. "Do all humans think like this?" she asked. So loud, so wild, so tangled. Daniel said nothing. He refused to give her satisfaction. But his silence made her laugh again, this time softer, almost musical. "Interesting," she said. "You are not like the others I have touched." Daniel's eyes narrowed. Others, he thought. How many humans had she read before? How many had fallen under her gaze? The answer came before he could ask. "Enough," she said smoothly. "But none lasted as long as you. Most shattered quickly, begging for release." Her smirk sharpened again. "But you are different." Daniel forced a deep breath. Maybe she wanted to break him, maybe she wanted to test him, but he would not give her the victory. He remembered his training, the faces of his comrades, the pride of humanity. He clung to that strength like a shield. The girl's eyes glowed brighter. She pressed deeper into his mind, dragging out fragments of his past, memories of home, of battles, of loss. Daniel gasped as the images flickered before his eyes, too real, too sharp. She whispered his secrets, aloud, twisting them like blades, his failures, his fears, even the moments he never spoke of. She exposed them all. Yet still, he stood. He shook, but did not fall. His silence was his weapon now, his defiance louder than words. And she noticed, her smirk wavered for the first time. Not gone, but changed, less mocking, more thoughtful. "You are strange," she murmured, almost to herself. "You burn, even when I smother the flame." Daniel locked eyes with her, his voice low but steady. "Humans do not break," he said. It was the first time he spoke since the chamber, and the words carried weight, strong and sharp. For a heartbeat, the girl was silent. Then her smirk returned slower this time, as if she wanted to hide what she really felt. "Then I will enjoy testing that," she whispered. Her gaze locked on his, glowing brighter. "This is only the beginning." The chamber hummed louder, the air growing heavy. Daniel knew she was preparing something worse, something deeper. But he also knew one truth. This battle was not of ships or weapons. It was a war of minds, and somehow, he had to win. The chamber glowed brighter, as if the walls themselves had awakened. Strange symbols rippled across the surface, shifting like waves of light. Daniel felt the air grow heavy, thick with a pressure that pushed against his chest. The alien girl stood before him, her smirk calm, her eyes glowing brighter with power. "You spoke boldly," she said, her voice smooth but sharp. "You claim humans do not break." She took a slow step closer, her gaze never leaving his face. "Now we shall see if your words are true." Her smirk widened, but this time it carried the weight of challenge, not just mockery. Daniel braced himself, his fists clenched at his sides. He had no weapon, no shield, only his will. But if that was all he had, then he would make it enough. The girl raised her hand and the symbols on the walls pulsed brighter. In an instant, Daniel's mind was no longer his own. Memories burst open, spilling like water from a cracked vessel. He saw his past flashing before his eyes, the battlefield, the faces of friends lost, the sound of screams. His body shook as if every wound he had ever felt was being torn open again. The girl walked slowly around him, her smirk never fading. "You humans hold on to pain like it is treasure," she said, her voice echoing inside his head. "You think of your failures, your guilt, your shame, and it makes you weak." Her words stabbed at him, but Daniel clenched his jaw, refusing to answer. More images rose from his mind. His home, the family he left behind, the moments of peace that now felt like dreams. The girl tilted her head, her smirk softer now, almost curious. "You hide behind duty, but inside you ache for what you lost," she whispered. Her eyes narrowed. "Tell me, human, do you fight for honor or do you fight because you fear being forgotten?" Daniel's chest tightened, but he did not speak. Her voice pressed harder, sharper, slicing through his silence. "You fear death, yet you fear life even more," she said, her smirk curling cruelly. "You think you are strong, but all I see is a man drowning in his own mind." Daniel staggered, his knees weak, but he forced himself to stay standing. He would not fall, not before her, not before anyone. His thoughts were chaos, but he searched for something, anything to hold on to, and then he found it. Beneath the pain, beneath the fear, there was a spark, a memory not of weakness but of strength. The faces of his comrades, the unity of his people, the fire of humanity. They had fought, they had bled, but they had never surrendered. Daniel gripped that spark and held it tight. He raised his head, his eyes locking on the girl's glowing gaze. "You see my pain?" he said, his voice rough but steady. "But you do not understand it." Her smirk faltered for the briefest moment. "Pain does not make us weak," Daniel continued, his voice growing firmer. "It makes us human. It makes us stronger. It is why we fight, why we endure, why we survive." The girl stopped circling, standing directly before him now. Her smirk returned, but it was different, less certain, more thoughtful. "You speak as if pain is a gift," she said softly, her tone almost questioning. Daniel's lips tightened into the faintest smile. "Maybe it is," he answered, "because no matter how deep it cuts, we rise again." The chamber trembled faintly as if responding to his words. The girl's eyes narrowed, her smirk sharpening once more. "You resist well," she said, "but this was only the beginning." Her voice dropped lower, colder. "You will not leave here unbroken." With a wave of her hand, the symbols on the walls flared even brighter. A new wave of force slammed into Daniel's mind, deeper, darker. This time it was not only memories of the past, it was visions of the future. He saw humanity crushed, planets burning, soldiers falling one by one. His heart raced. His breath caught in his throat. Was this real or was it her trick? Her smirk grew crueler as she whispered, "Your people will fade, your fire will turn to ash, and you will watch it happen." Daniel's hands trembled, his chest heavy with dread. But even through the storm he remembered his spark, the fire of defiance, the truth of who he was. He forced his feet to stay firm, his eyes locked on hers. The girl's smirk wavered again, her brows narrowing slightly. "You still stand," she said, almost in disbelief. You should be broken by now, yet you are not. For the first time, her voice carried a trace of unease. Daniel breathed hard, his body shaking but his spirit unyielding. He met her gaze with steady fire. You can dig through my mind, show me fear, twist my pain, he said. But you will never break me. The chamber's glow flickered, the girl's smirk fading into silence. Her eyes lingered on him, sharp but uncertain. Finally, her lips curved again, slower, softer. Then I will go deeper, she whispered, her smirk returning. And when I reach the thought you fear most, then you will fall. Daniel's chest tightened, but he stood tall. If this was only the beginning, then the true battle had yet to come, and he was ready. The chamber darkened, the glowing walls fading to a deep, pulsing red. Daniel felt the air tighten, pressing heavy against his skin. The alien girl stood before him, her smirk curling like a blade, her eyes burning brighter than before. You think you are strong, she said, her voice echoing through his skull. But every mind has a breaking point. Daniel's fists tightened at his sides, his body aching from the storm of visions she had already forced upon him. But he held his ground, his jaw set, his eyes fixed on hers. The girl raised her hand slowly, and the red symbols on the walls came alive. They twisted into new shapes, sharper, darker, filling the chamber with a low hum that rattled Daniel's bones. Then it began. Images poured into Daniel's head, more violent, more brutal than before. He saw his comrades screaming, falling under alien fire. He saw entire cities burning, their skies filled with smoke and death. The smell of ash filled his mind, choking and suffocating. The girl walked closer, her smirk cruel and steady. You see, she whispered, your kind is fragile, your hope is paper, your strength is glass. Her words slid into his head like knives, twisting deeper with each breath. Daniel staggered, his knees weak, but still he refused to fall. She leaned closer, her voice sharp, against his ear. Do you know the thought you fear the most? She asked softly. Her smirk widened as her power pressed deeper into his mind. It is not death, human. No. It is the fear that all your sacrifice means nothing. Daniel gasped. His chest tight, the visions changed again. Now he saw himself fighting alone, standing on empty ground while his people turned away. Their faces cold, their voices silent, as if he had been forgotten. The loneliness was sharper than any wound, and it nearly broke him. The girl's smirk grew wider as she felt his struggle. There it is, she whispered. The fear you bury, the fear you hide even from yourself. Her eyes gleamed, her voice dripping with satisfaction. You are terrified that your courage is meaningless, that you are only one man screaming into the void. Daniel's breath came ragged, his vision blurred with pain. The weight of her words crushed against his chest like iron. For a moment his knees buckled and he dropped down, his hands pressed. Into the floor the girl's smirk sharpened, her victory close. Yes, she breathed. Kneel, human. Accept what you truly are. Small, weak, alone. Her laughter filled the chamber, cruel and echoing. The guards at the edges shifted uneasily, but they said nothing. To them this was power, to them this was entertainment. But Daniel's fire still burned, faint but alive. Even in the storm of despair, he clung to one thought. He remembered the faces of those who had stood beside him, the voices of those who had fought and fallen. They had not been meaningless. They had not been forgotten. Their sacrifices lived through him, through every soldier who still carried the flame. He forced himself to lift his head, sweat dripping down his face. His voice was hoarse but steady. You are wrong, he said. The girl's smirk faltered for a heartbeat. Humans are never alone, Daniel continued, his words sharp. We fight together, we fall together, we rise together. Even in death we are not forgotten. He stood again, his legs trembling but unyielding. His eyes locked on hers, blazing with defiance. The girl stared at him, her smirk smaller now, her eyes narrowing. You resist more than any I have seen, she admitted. Her voice carried a strange mix of irritation and curiosity. But do not mistake survival for victory, human. This is not over. Daniel drew a breath, steady and strong. You cannot break me, he said firmly. The chamber trembled again, the red symbols flickering uncertainly. The girl's smirk returned, but slower, thinner, as if she hid something beneath it. She leaned closer once more, her voice soft and, "Lo, then I will find another way," she whispered. Her eyes glowed brighter, searching deeper, hungrier. This is not the end. It is only the edge of the abyss. Daniel's chest tightened as the pressure surged again. The breaking point had not passed. It was still ahead, waiting for him. But even as the storm grew, darker, he felt a spark inside him stronger than before. The girl's smirk promised torment but also fear, because for the first time, she had seen something she could not fully control, and that frightened her. The chamber still glowed with heavy red light. Daniel stood tall, though his body shook, his mind battered but unbroken. The alien girl watched him with sharp eyes, her smirk thinner now, not as certain as before. For the first time she had seen resistance stronger than her grip. "You should have fallen," she said slowly, her voice calm but edged with frustration. "No human has lasted this long. None have fought me this far." She stepped closer, circling him like a shadow that refused to vanish. Her smirk returned, small but sly. "But even a flame that burns bright will burn out." Daniel breathed hard, his chest heavy but his spirit burned brighter. She had dragged him into the darkest parts of his mind, forced him to face his deepest fear. And still he stood. Still he endured. That was the truth of humanity. Endurance, defiance, fire that no storm could extinguish. "You keep searching for my weakness," Daniel said, his voice rough but steady. "But what you call weakness is our strength." The girl tilted her head, her smirk softening, her curiosity growing. "You believe this," she whispered, "that your fear and pain make you stronger?" Daniel met her eyes without flinching. "Yes," he said firmly, "because pain teaches us, fear reminds us, and hope keeps us alive." Her smirk wavered, her eyes narrowing. She pressed her power deeper, trying to crush that spark, but it only grew brighter. Visions filled Daniel's head again, but this time they were not only hers. He saw humans standing together, fighting against impossible odds. He saw families holding each other through storms. He saw soldiers who refused to bow, who carried the fire of their people in their hearts. The girl's eyes widened slightly, as she felt his thoughts push back against her. It was not chaos, it was not shame, it was strength. Strength she had not expected, strength she could not bend so easily. Her smirk faltered for the second time. "You are dangerous," she whispered, her voice low. Daniel allowed himself the faintest smile. "Not dangerous," he said. "Human." The chamber pulsed, the red glow flickering uncertainly, like it no longer obeyed her fully. She stepped back, her smirk trying to return, but weaker than before. "You resist me, but do not think you have won," she said sharply. "I can still reach deeper. I can still find the thought that will shatter you." Her eyes glowed brighter as if to prove her words, but Daniel did not look away. "You may see my thoughts," he answered, "but you do not understand them." He took a step forward, his voice firm. "Humans fight not because we are unafraid, but because we choose to fight even when fear is strongest." Her smirk froze, caught between doubt and pride. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. The guards shifted uneasily at the edges, glancing at their leader. They had never seen anyone stand so long against her, never seen her falter. It unsettled them, though none dared speak. The girl's smirk slowly curved again, but this time it carried a new edge. "You speak of fire, of hope," she said, her tone quieter. "But fire consumes, and hope breaks when the weight is too heavy." Her eyes narrowed as she stepped closer. "What happens when even your spark dies?" Daniel held her gaze, his voice steady as stone. "Then another spark rises," he said. She paused, her smirk still but her eyes flickering. You cannot kill what lives in all of us. Daniel continued, because humanity is not one flame, it is millions burning together. The chamber trembled faintly, the symbols on the walls pulsing in rhythm with his words. The girl sensed it too, her smirk shrinking as her control wavered. She leaned forward, whispering coldly, "You think this makes you strong, but it makes you stubborn, and stubbornness will destroy you." Daniel smiled faintly, though his body shook with exhaustion. "Better stubborn than broken," he said. Her smirk froze again, and for a heartbeat her eyes softened, almost as if she was not mocking him anymore, but studying. Him curious, unsure. The silence stretched, the hum of the chamber filling the air. The guards stood like statues waiting for her command. The girl finally turned her gaze away, her smirk returning but slower, heavier. "This is not finished," she whispered. "Your spark may shine, but I will find a way to snuff it out." Daniel drew a deep breath, steadying himself. "You can try," he said, "but you will fail." The words hung in the air, sharp and unyielding. The girl's smirk lingered, but her eyes betrayed something new. Doubt, and in that doubt, Daniel saw victory. Small, fragile, but real. For the first time, it was not only her testing him, it was him testing her. The chamber's glow shifted again, red light fading into deep blue. The air was heavy but calmer, like the storm before the next strike. Daniel stood breathing hard, his body worn, but his spirit burning brighter than ever. Across from him, the alien girl's smirk lingered, but her eyes betrayed something else. Unease. For the first time, she had not controlled the flow. For the first time, she had been forced to step back. Her smirk tried to mask it, but Daniel could feel it, the faint crack in her certainty, and with that knowledge came a spark of daring inside him. "You speak of sparks and fire," she said smoothly, regaining her tone. "But you forget, human. I hold the power. I can open every corner of your mind." She stepped closer, her smirk sharp again, her eyes glowing like burning stars. "I see your fear, your shame, your weakness, and I can drown you in them." Daniel met her gaze, his lips curling into something she had not expected, a smirk of his own. "You may see my thoughts," he said calmly, "but I am starting to see yours." Her eyes widened, just slightly, her smirk twitching before she forced it steady again. "You lie," she said quickly, though her voice carried a faint tremor. Daniel stood taller, his voice firm. "No, I feel it," he said. "Every time you push deeper, something of you leaks into me." He stepped forward slowly, the fire in his chest growing. "And now I see cracks in your armor, just like you tried to see mine." The girl froze for half a breath, her smirk flickering into silence. Then she laughed softly, though it was sharper. Forced. "Impossible," she said, her smirk returning but thinner. "You cannot touch me, human. You are flesh and bone. I am beyond you." But Daniel shook his head. "You called my mind loud, wild, tangled," he said. "Maybe it is, but that chaos fights back. It does not stay open. It pushes against you." He leaned closer, his eyes locked on hers. "And now I hear echoes of your own thoughts." Her smirk faltered again, her glow dimming for a heartbeat. "What do you think you hear?" she asked, her voice sharp but uneven. Daniel smiled faintly, though his body shook with strain. "I hear curiosity," he said. "I hear doubt." The girl's eyes narrowed, her smirk struggling to stay steady. "You hear nothing," she whispered, though her voice lacked the sharpness it once had. Daniel's fire grew brighter, his defiance stronger. "I hear fear," he said simply. The chamber pulsed violently, as if reacting to the clash of wills. Symbols on the walls flickered between red and blue, unable to decide. The guards shifted uneasily, glancing at each other but staying silent. They had never seen this before, never seen their mistress shaken. The girl stepped back, her smirk tight, her breathing sharper. "You presume too much," she said. "You think you can face me in my own domain?" Her eyes glowed brighter, forcing another surge of pressure into his mind. But this time Daniel pushed back, harder, fiercer. The visions she forced onto him broke apart under his fire. Her whispers twisted, echoing back at her instead. Her smirk froze, her eyes widening as she felt it, her own power being turned against her. Daniel stood firm, his voice calm and sharp. "Now," he said. "I see you." The girl gasped softly, her smirk gone, her expression shifting into something else. Uncertainty. For the first time, her mask cracked. Daniel pressed further, not with force, but with will. He let his fire spread, his defiance reach out, pushing into her mind the way she had done to him. He saw flickers, flashes of her own past, a lonely child standing among shadows, eyes glowing but face solemn, a world of rules and chains, a people who demanded perfection. Her smirk was a mask, Daniel realized, a shield she wore to hide her own cracks. The girl staggered, her lips parting in disbelief. "You should not be able to see this," she whispered, her smirk nowhere to be found. Daniel's voice was steady. "Maybe not," he said, "but humans are not what you think. We fight, we adapt, we push back." Her eyes narrowed, her smirk trying to return, but it trembled at the edges. "You twist this moment into victory, but you are still mine," she hissed. Yet her voice carried, less certainty, less control. And Daniel saw it clearly now. He was no longer only the prisoner. The chamber hummed louder, the walls shaking as the balance shifted. The guards stepped forward nervously, but the girl raised her hand, halting them. Her smirk returned, thin and fragile. "This is not finished, human," she said, her voice low. "You may have touched me, but you will never break me." Daniel smirked back, his eyes burning with fire. "Funny," he said softly. "That is exactly what I told you." The girl's smirk froze, her gaze locked on him. For the first time, the silence between them felt even, not master and captive, but rivals. And in that silence, both knew the battle had only just begun. The chamber was silent, but the silence was heavy. Blue and red light flickered along the walls, unable to choose one color. Daniel stood firm, his chest rising with deep breaths, his mind burning with stubborn fire. The alien girl faced him, her glowing eyes steady, but her smirk was thinner than ever. For a long moment, neither spoke. The guards held their weapons but dared not move. Even the walls seemed to wait, pulsing faintly, as if the entire place was listening. It was no longer a game of strength alone, but a battle of wills. "You think you have seen me?" the alien girl finally said, her voice soft. "But you do not understand me." Her smirk twitched, half returning, but her eyes betrayed the storm within. "You peeked at shadows of my past, but you cannot touch the core of who I am." Daniel's gaze did not waver. "You smirk to hide yourself," he said, "but I see it now." He took a slow step forward, his voice calm but sharp. "You use my thoughts, my weakness, my fire, but deep down you carry the same." The girl's smirk froze, her eyes narrowing. "Do not compare me to you," she hissed, though her tone trembled slightly. Daniel shook his head. "I am not comparing," he said. "I am connecting." Her eyes widened just for a moment. Then her smirk returned, though thinner. "You humans are strange," she said, her voice dripping with disbelief. "Even in chains, even in pain, you look for meaning, for hope." She leaned closer, her smirk pressing into his space. "It will be your undoing." Daniel did not flinch. "Or it will be my victory," he replied, his own smirk mirroring hers. The words hung in the air, sharp as blades. The chamber pulsed again, shaking faintly beneath their tension. The girl raised her hand and the walls glowed brighter. Symbols spun like fire, shadows stretching, power thick in the air. "You forget," she said. "This place bends to me. It feeds on thought, and I command it." Her smirk was stronger. Now, as if she was reclaiming control, Daniel's fire burned hotter in his chest. "Then maybe it is time the chamber tasted something new," he said. He closed his eyes, focusing not on fear or shame, but on defiance, on human spirit. The chamber shook violently, colors flashing, the symbols bending. The girl's smirk faltered again as she felt it. Daniel was not only resisting, he was feeding his fire into the chamber itself. The walls pulsed brighter, not in her rhythm, but in his. The guard stumbled, back eyes wide as the glow spread beyond her control. Her smirk thinned, her jaw tightening. "You dare twist my domain against me?" she whispered. Daniel opened his eyes, his own smirk calm and sharp. "You showed me how," he said simply. The chamber roared with power, the air vibrating. Visions spilled into the room. Wild flashes of stars, battles, memories, dreams. Both Daniel and the girl stood at the center, locked in a duel of fire and will. Her smirk clashed against his, each one daring the other to break first. But beneath her smirk, her eyes betrayed something deeper, fear and wonder. And beneath Daniel's smirk, his fire burned steady, stronger than ever. For the first time, she realized she could not fully read him anymore. For the first time, Daniel was beyond her reach. Chamber light bent inward, focusing on them both. The guards shielded their faces, some dropping to their knees. The girl's smirk wavered, her voice sharp. "This is madness, human. You will destroy yourself." Daniel stepped closer, the fire blazing in his gaze. "Then I will take you with me," he said, "but I will not bend." The girl's smirk froze, her eyes widening as she felt the truth in his words. This was not weakness. This was strength, the kind of strength she had never known. For a long moment she stared at him, her smirk trembling. Then slowly, almost unwillingly, it curved into something different. Not mockery, not cruelty, but something faintly genuine. "You are dangerous," she whispered. Daniel smirked back, calm and unshaken. "Now you understand," he said. The chamber light steadied, shifting into a single color, bright white, pure and burning. The guards lowered their heads, unable to watch. The girl's smirk held, but softer now, almost curious. "This is not the end, human," she said quietly. "You have touched my mind, but the game is far from finished." Daniel's smirk stayed firm, his fire steady. "Good," he said. "I like unfinished games." The chamber dimmed slowly, the roar fading into silence. Both of them still stood, both smirking, both refusing to yield, but the balance had changed forever. No longer prisoner and captor, but rivals bound by fire and defiance. And in the quiet, her smirk said everything. Not victory, not defeat, but promise. The promise that their story was only beginning,